Nancey, the problem of evil in the world, which everyone recognizes is very severe,
Yes.
would seem to be a theist's biggest problem in dealing with a God who might have created this universe. How do you deal with it?
Well, I see two major problems. One is the human evil that we perpetrate on one another. And I think that that's a relatively easy problem to deal with simply at the intellectual level. If God wants us to relate to Him in a loving manner, I think that presupposes freedom on our part. And if we are free, then it's inevitable that we'll misuse our freedom. And so the free will defense, we sin. There are horrendous evils, and it's almost an evil itself to simply brush those away with such a facile explanation. But you are just asking for the intellectual response, not a pastoral response. But the other aspect is, why the tsunami? Why earthquakes?
Natural evil.
Yes, that cause so much suffering, not perpetrated by humans, that injure innocent children, cause terrible suffering for animals as well. That has been a very difficult problem for quite a few centuries. It used to be explained by saying that it was punishment for human sin, or that human sin somehow disordered the cosmos because of the chain of command from God to the angels to humans to the inorganic world. And once that chain of command is broken, then God's formerly perfect world is disrupted. But we simply don't think in those terms anymore. And so there hasn't been any good account of why the Lisbon earthquake, why the tsunami several Christmases ago. But we're beginning to find some very significant ways of approaching that. The simplest answer to why suffering is it's due to the ordinary working of the laws of nature. So, for instance, your child falls out of a tree and breaks a bone. Well, why does the bone break? It's because of the strength of gravity relative to the strength that holds the little bones together. That's just the laws of nature. Well, we used to be able to ask, why couldn't have God made gravity more gentle? Or bones stronger? Or something like that. But with the recent work on the fine-tuning of the basic laws of physics, we can now say that the basic laws of nature had to be almost exactly what they are in order for there to be life at all. And so we can no longer imagine having a world where we could tinker, say, with gravity so that we don't get hurt so badly, but leave everything else unchanged and still be here.
Let's go back to moral evil. What you're saying is that for some torturer or genocide perpetrator, in order for God to enable them to have free will, we are then putting into extreme suffering dozens, thousands, millions of people.
Yes. One might say, why doesn't God intervene and abort that person in the womb? Or why doesn't God cause paralysis to come over that person just before he or she commits the deed? And that question about divine intervention, I think, is a very difficult one. Some Christians would say that God is, in fact, intervening to lessen the amount of human evil in the world.
Oh, that sounds like a really weak argument.
I know. And others would say that in order to preserve genuine freedom, God has to permit everybody to do what he or she would do. Because if God did intervene to halt the evil ones, then it simply would, if everyone who did evil got punished for it and we could see it, then it would really remove the genuine freedom to act as we chose.
What then happens to those babies or children who have been destroyed by this evil?
Oh, another tough question. There have been a number of different views on that in Christian history. A rather vicious one held by Augustine is that, or perhaps not held by him, but held by some, is that they go to hell. A nicer position is that they go to some place called limbo. My own view of what happens at death is, first of all, based very much on a concept of God that is broadly loving and reaches out to everyone who is at all willing to respond. And I believe in post-death opportunities for that sort of relationship. So I believe that infants who die before they've had a chance to come into a relationship with God are not excluded from that possibility.